And hello once more, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. Welcome to episode 61 of A Druid's Dozen. My name's John Wisby. I'm known in certain circles as the Rock Druid, and basically I'm a radio DJ. I've got a couple of radio shows. There's the Sunday Rock Show on BCFM Radio, 93.2 FM in Bristol in the UK. And then there's the Rock Druid on astroradio.earth. Links to those shows are going to be down there and over there, depending whether you're on Facebook or YouTube watching this. And basically this is just a little thing that I do every week where I raid my record collection. I've been collecting for years and my record collection is quite large, and I'll drag out a dozen items and wave them in front of the camera and just chat about them. 6 on vinyl, 6 on CD, and should we get going? Yeah, why not? We'll have this to start off with. This is Mirador by Magnum. Now, this is a compilation album, and I'm primarily waving this just so that I can revel in some Rodney Matthews artwork. My favourite artist, you know, Rodney Matthews, when it comes to album covers. I had the great privilege of meeting the guy at a festival a few years ago and having a copy with him. Lovely bloke. Very talented geezer as well. Anyway, there's the front. There's the back. I'll pull this out. We have a heavy metal FM revolver, label inner sleeve with some various FM revolver releases, including a classic body and Meebix there. There's that. And then there's the disc. No, nothing on the run out grooves. And I apologise if you can hear some pattery rain in the background. We're having a traditional English summer. Okay, now this is a compilation album brought out by FM Revolver, which was Magnum's label briefly in the 2 albums I think I did on FM Revolver. That was on A Storyteller's Night and 11th Hour. Anyway, this came out in, I think it was 1987, which was around about the time that Magnum changed label to Polydor, brought out the amazing Vigilante album. But anyway, this was brought out because, well, any reason why compilation albums come out. Record companies have tracks knocking around, a band successful, why not cash in? And basically it just sums up the band's career from their first album, which was Kingdom of Madness, back in about 78, through to On the Storyteller's Night. There's a couple of tracks off each album. Nothing outstanding or rare or obscure on it. You've got cuts like How Far Jerusalem, The Spirit, Kingdom of Madness, Sacred Hour, The Great Adventure, Soldier of the Line. You know, all stuff that's kind of be well familiar to Magnum fans, and a lot of stuff that's still played live to this day. Yeah, that's about it really. It's a Magnum compilation with a fantastic Rodney Matthews art cover. The Mirador, I think, was a title of one of Rodney Matthews' calendars that he brought out around about the mid-80s, and a lot of the artwork has since been adapted to various album covers, as is the want, because everybody wants a Rodney Matthews album cover. Yeah, that's about it really. If you're a Magnum collector, you'd have probably got all the tracks on this anyway, but you know, worth picking up for the cover and being a completionist. Although as a kind of, not a perfect one, because there's some tracks on here that are missing that are must-hears, like the Mort d'Asson and On a Storyteller's Night itself, that should have been on this album, that aren't. But you know, as a gateway into Magnum, you could do worse than picking this up if you've not got any of their earlier albums. So yeah, Mirador by Magnum, compilation 1987. Brings us on to our first CD of the day. Here we go. This is Suspended in Time by Destruction of a Rose. It's a better metalcore for you. There's the front. There is the back. Pop this open. Credits behind the disc. There is the disc. Broken jewel case. Really got to get some jewel cases and replace some of these at some point, you know. There's the basically, there's the band, sorry. Better view of the front cover, and there we have lyrics and credits. Yeah, this is sort of like Californian, say metalcore, a little bit pop punk as well. They kind of fall in that kind of hardcore metalcore punk kind of crossover vein. Quite a sweet band. I don't know if they've released anything else. This is the only thing I possessed by them. This came out in 2009. There may be other stuff, there may not be. As I said, don't know. This is all right. I won't say it's brilliant. I'm not going to say it's the greatest thing in my collection. But there again, I've got a lot worse as well. There's 6 tracks on here, each quite sweet. Highlights will probably for me include Under Black Flags We Sail. Bit of a piracy theme going on in that one, methinks. Blame It on the Alcohol. We've all done that from time to time, haven't we? Yeah, it's sweet. It's quite good. As I said, it's a bit metalcore-y, but also it's got a big pop punk sensibility running through it as well. Performances are pretty good. Got to praise the vocalist. I'll try to think of his name. I'm going to have to drag this out and have a look again. Evan Fox is the bloke that sings, and backed up by a guy called Nick Rose, who's also a singing guitarist. Yeah, sweetly played. Production's quite cool, and you know, while it's not going to shatter any earths, it will quite. Yeah, it's entertaining enough, and you know, better than a kick in the head. Yeah, so better than a kick in the head. Destruction of a Rose with Suspended in Time, 2009. Okay, next up, I'll warn you in advance, I'm going to maybe be a bit controversial on this one. But here we are. 1982. Number of the Beast, Iron Maiden. There is the front. There is the back. Whip this out. It's an original pressing with lyrics, band photos, there's the disc, and this does have a run out groove message. But my eyesight, I have to borrow your Missy's magnifying glass. Yeah, there is something scratched on there, but I can't read it. Yeah. But anyway, Iron Maiden's first album with Bruce Dickinson, and my favourite Iron Maiden album. No bones about it. I'll admit, hand on heart, look, if I was pushed to choose between Maiden and Priest, I would come down on the side of Rob Halford and the boys, but, you know, hey, this isn't a competition, this is just a love of music, so there's no real competition there. Just saying I prefer Priest overall. But Maiden done some corking stuff, including this album. Every track bar one is a classic. From the opener Invaders, about Vikings hitting Ireland and go to the watchtower, get the other men, is there enough men here for a stand? Then you got Children of the Damned, The Prisoner, I'm Not a Number, I Am a Free Man, 22 Acacia Avenue, Number of the Beast, even Gangland, which is one of their lesser known tracks, I think is absolutely storming, got a beautiful riff on it. And then the classic closer, Hello Be Thy Name. There, to me, is not a weak spot on this album, bar one. And here comes the controversy. Despite the fact that this is my favourite Iron Maiden album, it also contains my least favourite Iron Maiden track, and that is, wait for it, wait for the hate comments, Run to the Hills, their biggest hit. I do not like that track at all. Ever since I got this album, when it came out, this is about the second copy I've had. I used to have it on cassette first of all, which got eaten years ago. But right from the off, the moment that squeaky, horrible riff comes in, you know, and then it's got that mid-tempo, brain-dead plod with the banal Steve Harris, I want to write something about Indians lyrics. That song to me just sucks a big time. And ever since I've got this album, I've always skipped that track out when I'm playing it. I don't know, I'm sorry, yes, I know I'm going to get hate comments for it, but, you know, because it's Maiden's best known track and it's their live favourite and everyone screams for it at Maiden gigs. But to me, you know, maybe it's the fact that when it came out it was all over the place, and if I never hear it again, it'll be too soon. Maybe it's overexposure, I don't know, but I never have liked that song, and to me it's always been a flaw on the floor of this album. Sorry, just my opinion. Other opinions are available and feel free to hold them. Yeah, but overall, a classic album, yeah, you know, it's got everything. Derek Riggs' album cover, you know, some great performances. The last appearance of Clive Burr on the Iron Maiden's drum stall, the first appearance of Bruce Dickinson, just making for a corking record. So, yeah, I apologise if I've offended any Maiden fans by dissing your favourite Maiden track, but I just don't like it. Feel free to. I'm not going to stop you enjoying it. But just if you ever see me DJing in a club, don't ask me to play it because I won't. But anyway, have any other Maiden track you like, but not that one. Yeah, Iron Maiden, Number of the Beast, 1982, all-time classic, with one proviso. Yeah, great album. Okay, next up, we have this one. Hollywood Forever by L.A.Guns from 2012. There is the front. There is the back. Pop this open. There is the disc. Slide this out. Booklet folds out lastly. Pictures and credits on that side. Lyrics on that side. Now, this is L.A.Guns, or rather a version of L.A.Guns that so I need to insert this because this gets complicated. Yeah, L.A.Guns, of course, Phil Lewis, you know, made his name in Britain with bands like Girl and Tull and Flesh Torpedo. Went out to LA to seek his fortune. Met up with a guy called Tracy Guns, formed L.A.Guns, and the rest, they say, is history. But a complicated one because periodically Mr. Lewis and Mr. Guns have fallings out, which means to various incarnations of L.A.Guns turn up, and now there's, although Phil Lewis and Tracy Guns are now working back together. There's yet another incantation of L.A.Guns with its L.A.Guns members flying around. Lawyers are drawn. I don't know, it just gets complicated and quite messy for the fans. Now, this incarnation features Phil Lewis and Stacey Blades on guitar, not Tracy Guns, and backed up by Steve Riley on drums, Scott Griffin on bass, and Junko Lewis on keyboards. Yeah, and it's all right. It's pretty sweet. It's got a bit of a Tracy Guns hole in it, I'll admit, sound-wise. But, you know, Stacey Blades does all right. Stacey Blades used to be somewhere else, wasn't it? Yeah. But it's quite a cool album. It's, as you would expect, it's slightly sleazy. It's a bit hair metally. It's quite good fun. Highlights on here: Ill Pie. Not sure what that's about, but I don't think it's about the famous recording studios in London. Secret Memory. Vine Street Shimmy is a good cut. And it's all pretty much of a muchness. It's quite sweet. It's quite well played. Not the best L.A.Guns album, but not the worst by a long shot. And if you're into L.A.Guns, worth adding to your collection. Not a great deal more to say on here. Yeah, it's an L.A.Guns album. Hollywood Forever, 2012. Okay, next up, we'll have this and another one that I drove. I don't know, another one of my all-time favourite albums by a certain band. The certain band this time being Jethro, Tull, and my all-time favourite album by them being this one, 1982's Broadsword and the Beast. There's the front with the magnificent. Oh, I love the cover on this. Ian McCraig did the album work. I don't know who he is, but he's done a fine job. There is the back. Whip this out. No inner sleeve on here, I don't think. No credit sleeve, no. Yeah, pull this out. There we go. Chrysalis Records. And yeah, just catalogue numbers on the run out cruise. Now, I love Jethro Tull. I always have done. You know, I can remember sort of we having school discos and back in the 70s, and I remember we having a teacher that used to DJ from time to time. He was a bit of a hippie. We used to dance around to Living in the Past and that kind of thing. And I remember also having a music teacher that was kind of well into bands like Jethro Tull and would explain the inner workings of the Aqualung album to us. I miss Mr. Peck, you know. But anyway, I heard this album when it first came out in 1982. I picked up a copy not long after, and it's been my favourite Tull album ever since. There is nothing not to like about this record. At one point, some of my more hippier friends, the late lamented Smurf and the still ongoing Biggles, gave me the name Beastie off this album, after the first track. And that track lays out builds up and lays out a fantastic kind of vibe to setting up the tone of the album. Then it just goes through Falling on Hard Times, Flying Colours, Slow Marching Band, and then when you hit the second side, you've got the opening cut, Pussy Willow. Again, a bit like that Maiden cut, Invaders, about Vikings raiding Irish monasteries. Get me my broadsword and get to the roundhouse, and a cross of gold as a talisman, all this sort of thing. Pussy Willow, song about the grind of daily drudgery. The epic Seal Driver, Watching Me, Watching You, then the little cheeky closing cut cheerio. This album flows together perfectly. This is Jethro Tull at their finest. Lineup has got the usual suspects of Ian Anderson, of course, Martin Barr, David Pegg on bass, and Peter John Vitesse, who was late with Simple Minds on keyboards. Okay, Vitesse maybe got a little bit over the top on the follow-up album of this, which was Under Wraps, but on here, he is perfect. Gary Conway on drums. Just a great album. From the artwork to the music to the production by Paul Samuel Smith. Nothing to fault it. Maybe the perfect Jethro Tull album. Other people may argue about things like Aqualung, etc., but to me, it's this. So, if you never heard Jethro Tull before, do yourself a favour. When you finish watching this vid, go have a listen. Go give it a stream and have your mind blown. Yeah, Jethro Tull, Broadsword and the Beast. And if you want to know, genre-wise, just in case you didn't know, kind of folky prog rock with a bit of a twist. So yeah, Jethro Tull, Broadsword and the Beast, 82, one of the best Tull albums of all time. Okay, next up, we'll have this. This is Rebel by Infected Malignity. This is some metalcore. This is Japanese metalcore. All the way out of, I think, not Tokyo. I'll check in a minute. But yeah. There's the front. There's the back. Pop this open. There's not a great deal of stuff behind the disc. There is the disc. Pop this out. Just folds out into a thing like that, and a thing like that. No band photos or anything, unfortunately. Yeah, Japanese metalcore. Now I don't know where these recorded. I think this was this band a Tokyo band. I may be wrong. But I do know that this is a lovely piece of kind of corey metal. Yeah, it does suffer to a certain extent the fact you've got the old clean and dirty vocals, which, when did this come out? 2007. Which, you know, as far as metalcore goes, became a huge cliche. And quite a yawnsome aspects of the genre, if you ask me. But these guys keep it quite sweet. You got the opening cut, A Waltz of Rebellion, bit of an instrumental number, leads into Fictitious Follower and Conceit Man. Great stuff. Some of the lyrics are a bit disjointed. I get the opinion that they're English, obviously English not being their first language, they're originally written in Japanese and there's a kind of translation going because, I don't know, some of the titles and some of the lyrics don't quite ring true in English, but, you know, hey, I mean, it happened to Bow Wow and that is a thing you find a lot of, especially kind of what Asian bands that are kind of singing phonetically. But, you know, it works. I'm not going to hold that against them. Sky depicted, my favourite cut on here is the track 3, Clear Sky Depicted by a Wicked Artist. Incredible piece of music. Intense, you know, kind of brain-meltingly heavy. Just absolute breathtaking piece of metallic brutality. Yeah, overall it's quite good. Yeah, that's not much else to say. It's pretty good. Worth a check out if you ever get the chance. And yeah, big up the Japanese metalcore scene. Yeah, Infected Malignity, Rebel 2007. Worth a look. Okay, next up, let's something a bit more mellow. This is Settle Up or Settle Down by Bristol band Jebo. And this came out in, he says, trying to remember, 2010. There's the front. There is the back. Folds out lustily. There is the disc. And there's just the gatefold there. Now, Jebo, Bristol prog rock band. They were kind of it's their second album. Their first album, the title of which has just escaped me. Damn. Yeah. Anyway, I dealt with their first album on an earlier show, and the title just come straight out of my head. I literally thought of it just like I was about to say it, and then bing, you know how the brain works. But anyway, it's their second album. Slight lineup change from the band's first album. The first one had a fantastic vocalist called Kevin Holsworth as singer. He stepped down from the band for various reasons before this came out and was replaced by a guy called Kevin J. Messenger, an equally talented vocalist. The rest of the lineup is pretty much the same, and yeah, Settle Up or Settle Down. This album's very good, don't get me wrong. I do like this record, but I don't find it as gripping as their first one. The first one had an amazing song on it called The Seventh Day, all about militarism and marching up and down and capturing towns with an amazing trumpet solo. This one, although it's got its moments, cuts like 40 Miles, The Greatest Day, Mr. Fortune Teller, it's got some great tracks, but it hasn't really got anything quite as gripping as The Seventh Day, or there's a couple of other cuts on that first album as well. It's good, but it's not as accessible in my opinion. Don't get me wrong, if you like your prog rock, if you like bands like It Bites, especially bands like It Bites, maybe, you know, some of the more commercial elements that the later period 12th Night did, Haiku maybe, you're going to love this. It is brilliant, but to me, I don't know, it suffers from following a great album. Sadly, the band broke up not long after this came out, so, you know, we never got to hear anything beyond Bliss. It's a shame because the band had a lot of potential. There is also a mini live album available as well, live at the Royal Albert Hall, that they did when I was supporting some Australian tribute band or something down there. But anyway, Jebo, Settle Up or Settle Down, 2012, 2010, sorry, is it? Yeah, 2010. Self-release job. Think she'll still be available, and if you're into your prog, worth a listen. Yeah, not bad. Okay, next up, we're going to stay in the kind of hippie vein next, and we'll have this. All Over the Show, this is a live album, All Over the Show by Here and Now, and this came out in, I don't know, it's not on there, I have to have a look on the inner sleeve. There's the front anyway. There is the back. Whip this out, no inner sleeve or anything. Love the label. The Charlie Records, they're quite an obscure label in the UK, but did a lot of kind of underground and hippie stuff and sort of post-punk. 1979. There's the other side there. Run out groove message. Note once more, just a catalogue number. Now, Here and Now, they're one of the great stalwarts of the British psychedelic acid rock underground scene. Contemporaries to bands like Hawkwind and Gong, sort of Killed in the High Roads, etc. Came through mid 1980s. I think there's a couple of guys who are ex-Gong members. That's where it spun off from. Still going to this day. They form on and off. They'll take time out, then come back. I had the great privilege of doing an interview with them, which was quite rare because Here and Now aren't renowned for giving interviews, but for some reason they like my show, so they on BCFM, so they thought, community, I'll do it. I had we spent a great evening with them anyway. But that's aside the point. A string of albums from the early 90s, from the mid 1970s through to the present day. Just a great record. The lineup on this, because they normally have a fairly flexible lineup. You've got Gavin de Blitz on keyboards, Rob Boogie on drums, Keith the bass on bass and vocals, Steffi Sharpie on vocals, and Bernie Elliott on guitars. Again, they have a fairly flexible lineup. People come, people go, but Here and Now remain. Interesting thing is, this is a live album recorded at various points on a UK tour, 1978, 1979, and Here and Now, they had to change it recently, but they never used to charge for their gigs. They used to have people on the door shaming you with a bucket because they think that, as you went out, so therefore you paid what you thought the performance was worth. Very hippie way of doing things. This album, okay, it suffers a bit from being a fairly low budget live album. I'm not going to make any bones about that. The performances are first rate. It's just that some of the production is a little bit iffy, put it this way, and doesn't do the band justice. Although you got cuts like the great 70s Youth on here, Surgeon's Knife, Think for Yourself, End of the Beginning, all brilliant tracks. A lot of it's improvised. And the thing is with Here and Now, they were very kind of trippy acid psychedelic band, but they were also very much, out of all those kind of British psych bands, they were always the ones that had their fingers firmly on the pulse. At various times they brought in elements of reggae and ska, even punk came into the kind of mix, making for one of the most eclectic sounds you'll ever hear. And I do recommend that you check out some Here and Now stuff. I'll be honest and say this album is maybe not the best gateway into Here and Now. I'll go for some of their studio albums, but this is still pretty sweet if the production is a little bit flaky. And Here and Now should be listened to by everybody, really. So do yourself a favour, go check out some Here and Now. And this album, which I won't recommend overall, not until you've heard some other stuff, but if you're a collector, definitely get it. 1979, all over the show. It's pretty good. Okay, next up we'll have a bit of this. Among the Stars by the Haiku. This came out 2011. There is the front. There is the back. Folds open. There's behind the disc. There is the disc. And here we have a press release and a covering letter, and I suddenly realised that I go, dear Joanne. I thought, what is it to? Joanne was what I remember was the secretary of BCFM at the time, and they sent it to her and she passed it on to me. Right, yeah. Now this lot, they're a Bristol based band, folk rocky kind of indie folk type stuff. Quite an interesting outfit. They maybe a bit of the kind of Levelers-y folk punk thrown in. Quite a sweet band. Now, this is their second full-length album. I haven't got this, but I do have their Not Enough People Are Wearing Hats EP, which I didn't quite realise at the time that same band. I discovered that out quite years ago because they went from Haiku to the Haiku. But anyway, they're just a pretty sweet band. Like I said, if you think Levelers-y, if you think yeah, even things that bands like Crowded House, REM as well. Some of the Squeeze's more kind of eclectic stuff. Makes a really good sound. This is a pretty good album. Just trying to think of a couple of highlights. Paper Cup, The Familiar Scene, So Begins, To the Stars. All pretty sweet. And worth a check. Now, whatever happened to these guys, I don't know. I haven't seen anything by them for ages. There's very little social media influence up, so I presume they've demised. But if you know, but there are still tracks knocking around on YouTube. There are still the odd downloads available. So yeah, if you like your folky stuff, you know, a bit of your kind of adult rock, maybe, you know, Levelers meets Crowded House, then I recommend. Yeah, the Haiku, Among the Stars, from 2011. Sweet. Okay, next up, we're going to call controversy again. In Your Face by Kingdom Come, from 1989. There is the front. There is the back. Kingdom Come going yay somewhere at a big stadium. Lyrics and credits there. Now, Kingdom Come were a controversial band back in their early days. The band is still going. Although they seem to have dropped a lot of the controversy, seem to have left them behind, thank God. But basically, these guys came out, heavy rock band, German, with a massive Led Zeppelin influence, to the point where they were sounding a lot, not a bit Led Zeppelin, a lot Led Zeppelin. You know, it started out, Kerrang used to start calling him Kingdom Clone. Then, you know, there were more and more people were commenting on, reviewers were saying, like, this is the best album Led Zeppelin never did, or the worst album Led Zeppelin never did. Jimmy Page himself waded in by saying, I don't mind people being influenced by my work, but there are times when Kingdom Come are crossing the line and nicking stuff, nicking riffs note per note. It annoyed Gary Morse and Ozzy Osbourne so much they collaborated on a track called Lead Clones, which they kind of directly name-checked Kingdom Come. And we don't, well, I've seen your crummy video, I don't want no more Lead Clones. Basically, these guys took a lot of flack for sounding a bit Led Zeppelin. And yeah, they can be a bit uncomfortably Zeppelin at places, but no more than other bands have kind of been paid kind of maybe a bit too much tribute to their heroes. I mean, take Crocus, the Swiss band. Some of their stuff is note for note AC/DC. They never got flack for it. Even Deep Purple released the track Perfect Stranger, which sounds uncomfortably like Kashmir. Yet no one pulled them up about it. There are other bands, like the Cult, sounding a bit Zeppelin-y, but again, they didn't get the flack. For some reason, all guns were trained on Kingdom Come. Like I said, I think it's a bit unfair because, yeah, they were very Zeppelin-esque, especially on this album. This one is probably the most Zeppelin-esque album they did. But, you know, there's also kind of hints of the Beatles and, you know, kind of other bands, Free, Bad Company, all that kind of stuff, Budgie even, floating around in their sound. That was developed later. And I think it was just a case of the more they got criticised for sounding like Led Zeppelin, was it the vocalist, Lenny Wolf, turned around and went, Led who? I'm into the Rolling Stones. Just to kind of play up the fire kind of thing. Fortunately, the band came out the other end of the flack and are still an ongoing, relevant and ongoing project to this day. Coming back to this album, yes, this album is, and I would say, a bit uncomfortably Zeppelin in my opinion, but it's well done. Just like a Wild Rose, overrated. Got my favourite cut on here, Gotta Go, Can't Wage a War. All pretty neat, sweet stuff. Yes, the Zeppelin vibe is strong on this one, Young Skywalker, but, you know, I think to a certain extent these guys are being unfairly targeted by the music press and, you know, low-hanging fruit, etc. So, but, you know, check them out. If you haven't heard Kingdom Come, be aware they are a bit Zeppelin-y, especially on the later albums, although that kind of influences kind of diverged as they went on beyond this one. But they are worth a listen, and they're talented musicians. You know, if they want to, you know, they rip off Zeppelin, but they do it very, very well. Yeah, Kingdom Come, In Your Face, 1989. Worth a check. Okay, next up we'll have a bit of this. Their last CD of the day. Here we go. Stop by the Plain White T's. There is the front. There is the back. That's what's behind the disc. There is the disc. Whip this out. Again, you've got one of these big fold out kind of inlay cards. So beloved of these type of bands. There's all the lyrics. There are the credits, and there's the band and some artwork. Yeah, Plain White T's, US band. I want to say California, I may be wrong, but kind of bridging the gap between indie rock and pop punk. Yeah, they're a bit pop punky, but also they're a little bit kind of indie alternative kind of stuff. Very angsty, very emo, very kind of disaffected US youth type sound, and they're pretty good. I do like these. They're not a band that's gonna kind of shatter any minds. They're not going to start the revolution, but on the other hand, they are a lot of fun. You know, I can't help. I've got a couple of Plain White T's albums, and I put this one on the other day just to give yourself a kind of refamiliarisation listen, because I haven't played it for a while. And by the time I got to about track 7 or 8, I'm beaming like a Cheshire cat, thinking, yeah, these are people having fun in the studio, doing the music they love, and it shows through the grooves. My favourite cut on here is the closer, Radios in Heaven. But, you know, you've got other tracks like Fireworks, Please Don't Do This, Leaving, Shine, Your Fault, Happy Someday, It's a Lonely September. Every track's a bit of a bit of a kind of gem. Yeah, this album came out 2001. I think it's their debut. I'm not sure. It's definitely got a certain, if it's not their debut, it's their second album, and it's definitely got a kind of young naivety to it, you know, that is quite endearing, you know, kind of. I do like kind of kids, maybe not know exactly what they're doing, they may be inexperienced, but they're having fun doing it. And as long as the music reflects that, then more power to everybody. Yeah, Lauren Israel, female producer, not quite unusual, even these days for music, which is something that should be rectified. More women in music production. I have spoken, and yeah, makes for a sweet, sweet record. Lots of fun, and you know, if you like good fun music, check it out. Yeah, 2001, stopped by the Plain White Tees. Leads us on to the final vinyl, and again, that's something that may shock you. So I'm going to bring out a Dire Straits record, making movies. God, I'm trying to think when this one came out. 1981, I think. I'll double check on the inner sleeve. Anyway, there's the front. The artwork on this isn't very inspiring. There's the back, and it's got a promo mark there. Yeah. I picked this up second-hand a good few years ago. I have several Dire Straits albums. I brought none of them new. They've all been second-hand acquisitions. Anyway, lyrics and band photos. More lyrics and no band photos with some credits. It's upside down there. Vertigo Records. And no, catalogue numbers only on the run out grooves. Now, just in case people have been living under a musical rock for ages, Dire Straits, a kind of soft rock, blues influenced soft rock band, came out of Tyneside in the northeast, Newcastle area. Although members did, so I think the band actually formed in London by people that were kind of renegades from the northeast. Not sure exactly how it works, but anyway, came through late 70s. Their first album, just called Dire Straits, massive, sort of like, not exactly a big hit, but a hugely influential song called Sultans of Swing on it, about kind of a jobbing rock band. Struck a song that strikes strikes a bell with anyone that's been in a struggling up and coming band. That song. Followed it up with a great album called Communique. This is their third album, and contains probably one of their best known songs, Romeo and Juliet. A kind of quite a sweet, but kind of quite, almost kind of punk vibe to it. Song about a bloke, loosely based on the Romeo and Juliet scene, but set in kind of gritty working class neighbourhoods. He kind of gets out an old guitar, steps out and goes, "Hey, you Juliet, you and me, babe, how about it?" And Juliet goes, "You give me a heart attack, you shouldn't come around here singing up to people like that." Yeah, it's a great song. I love the song. It's, you know, one of the selling points to me for Dire Straits was the songwriting. Mark Knopfler, and to a certain extent on the earlier albums, his brother David, two talented guitarists that could write some great songs. Smith some fine lyrics, and played them well. The other track on here that's worth mentioning is the opening cut, Tunnel of Love. Don't think it was a single, but it was a big part of their live sets for ages, and got a lot of radio airplay, turned up in quite a few film soundtracks. Other highlights on here, Skate Away, Hand in Hand, Solid Rock, Les Boys. It's all good stuff, and I've got to admit, I do like the early Dire Straits stuff. The first 3 albums or so are really cool. 4 albums. Telegraph Road's pretty good as well. Tend to go off them a bit. I found much as their best known album, Brothers in Arms, is quite good. It's a little bit more commercial and almost like fishing for hits. By then, you know, they were kind of after the money. And as far as their final album's concerned, On Every Street, it's pants. Band went downhill. Dire Straits are a band in the studio, went downhill very fast. Live, also, I've never seen Dire Straits live, thank God. I know quite a few people that have, and all come back with the same message. Live, Dire Straits are one of the most boring bands ever. They just stood there and played perfectionally, but you know, like perfection. It's like listening to the record. But when you're paying like, you know, X amount of money for the ticket, and all the band are just standing there with minimal audience reaction, just playing the record, playing the songs as they're on the record, then why bother going? Why not? Why just kind of? Why not save your money, get a beer, stay in and listen to music? But anyway, that's aside. I will praise Dire Straits' the first 4 albums at least as being just great songs with some great guitar work, backed up by some really talented other musicians. So yeah, maybe not one for the metalheads and your thrash punkers, but anyone that's got an ear for a sweet guitar solo or a well-crafted lyric delivered with a kind of human kind of aspect to it. Dire Straits, the early stuff, sweet. Yeah. If you haven't heard them, don't take my word for it, give them a check. So that's it for this week. Thanks for watching, everybody. So have you come across any of those records? What's your opinion? Am I right? Am I wrong? You know, do you want to kind of tell me how wrong I am about Run to the Hills by Maiden and why it's their greatest song ever? Convince me. I want to hear your opinions. Dire Straits, do you like them? Jethro Tull, your favourite Jethro Tull album. What's your opinion of Japanese metalcore, etc.? Just kind of leave a comment down there. On YouTube, over there on Facebook. It does help boost the algorithm. Hit a like while you're at it on both platforms. It's just so that YouTube knows and Facebook know that people are watching it, and more people might want to watch it. Share if you're that interested. So that's it. Don't forget, check out the radio shows, details down there and over there, for some me doing me stuff in the radio studio. And yeah, and so until next week, peeps, I'm out of here. Bye.